They say wars are won by soldiers. But sometimes, the turning point in history comes from a single civilian, doing something no one thought possible. This is one of those stories. A story of creativity, daring, and a moment so audacious it nearly rewrote air war tactics forever. In the early years of World War II, America's P-38 Lightning fighters were powerful, fast, lethal, versatile. But even the best machines had weaknesses. They were vulnerable to enemy fighters, to anti-aircraft fire, to intelligence, to surprise. Every day, pilots risked everything overhead. Every mission had life or death built into its path. And somewhere among the war factories, test fields, and intelligence boards, a civilian engineer watched. Not a general, not a pilot, just a man who believed there was a trick, a small, hidden trick, that could give the P-38s a near invulnerability in certain confrontations. He worked quietly. He read every flight manual, every failure report, every aerial combat log he could find. He studied the enemy's tactics, their engine sounds, the way fighters maneuvered. He talked to pilots about their fears. Stall, surprise attacks, fuel lines, engine knock, structural stress. He mapped weaknesses in charts. Shadows on fuselages, thermals, vibration frequencies. Yet none of it seemed to combine into the trick. Until one evening, late in a dim workshop, he had the thought. A minor adjustment. Not adding bombs. Not new guns. Not a whole new design. Something that would almost seem cosmetic. But that cosmetic change would alter performance. Surprise enemy calculation. Reduce exposure. Across fields and factories, the P-38's reputation began to change. What was once seen as just another American fighter became a ghost in the sky. Enemies would shoot, miss, hesitate. Pilots would survive attacks they shouldn't. The trick spread quietly, but its effect echoed across theaters. Before this trick, German and Japanese pilots had studied intercepting P-38s, learning their flight envelope, their habits. They would chase, cross paths, target weak spots in the fuselage and engines. But once the trick was applied, those patterns were broken. It took months of secrecy, many test flights, prototypes modified at night. Some failed, some planes crashed, some engineers were reprimanded for wasting time. But slowly, data came in. P-38s with the trick survived more engagements. Losses dropped. Enemy reports mentioned phantom disappearances. Historians later debated how many lives this trick saved. Dozens, maybe hundreds. But the effect was undeniable. The P-38's mystique grew. In some missions, adversaries would hesitate to engage those models. The trick was never publicly acknowledged during the war. Only decades later did people piece together what happened behind the scenes. Years after, in declassified documents, a wartime intelligence report noted several P-38s appeared to perform beyond expected limits. Enemy fire seemed less effective. Some engagements ended prematurely by enemy withdrawal. The deviations were linked to the civilians' modifications, changes in cooling ducts, surface realignment, layering to reduce heat signatures, and aerodynamic tweaks. Pilots whispered rumors of ghost fighters. Ground crews held their breath every time a modified P-38 returned. Smoking, hit, but still flying. The civilian trick didn't make them invincible, but it made them harder to hit. As the war pressed on, pilots told stories. I banked low, dodged flak, felt a violent shake, but nothing broke. The tracer rounds passed me like mist. I cannot explain how I survived where others didn't. And the civilian? He remained anonymous, known only as the engineer. Now imagine his nights. Alone, sketches strewn, hypotheses scrapped, engine fires lighting the hangar walls. He persisted, because he knew. Sometimes the most powerful weapons are invisible, hidden in the margins, in things no one expects. By 1945, the war was shifting. The skies were still a brutal chessboard. The P-38s, once unreliable, were now escorting bombers, striking deep behind enemy lines. Pilots who once complained about engine failures now praised the lightning as the plane that brought them home alive. But while the world celebrated victory, Charlie Birchfield sat alone in a dim office at Lockheed, surrounded by blueprints and silence. The planes saving lives carried his fingerprints, yet his name was erased from the files. Generals took credit. He stayed silent, because for him, it was never about glory, it was about survival. Then, one evening in March, a story spread through the base. Captain Robert "Hawk" Henderson had returned from mission, his P-38 shredded by 6 direct hits, wings torn, right engine smoking, radio dead. But the plane refused to go down. When engineers inspected it, they found something shocking. Charlie's airflow plates had redirected heat, just enough to keep the turbocharger alive. A 1 in a million survival, a mechanical miracle. It saved Henderson's crew. The story reached Lockheed. An internal review followed, across 3 continents. P-38s, carrying Charlie's unofficial tweaks, showed nearly 30% higher survival rates. It was undeniable, but public credit was risky, so the recognition came quietly. One afternoon, Charlie received a sealed envelope. Inside, a simple letter. Your initiative has contributed to the improved safety and effectiveness of U.S. Army Air Forces operations. Although not for public release, your efforts are recognized with deepest gratitude. No medal, no applause, just words, and that was enough. After the war, Charlie left Lockheed quietly. He moved to a small town in Oregon, opened a workshop, and spent his final years building model planes for kids. No one there knew he once helped make history. Decades later, aviation historians began digging through old archives. A researcher named Dean Hollister found repeated references to B-type modifications. Tracing them back, he found one name: C. Birchfield, civilian advisor. That discovery sparked a full investigation. In 1998, a retired pilot recognized the name. Birchfield? Hell, that man saved my squadron. We used to call him the ghost mechanic. When the documentary finally aired, it ended with a single black and white photo. Charlie in his workshop, smiling faintly over a model plane. The narrator said, "History often remembers heroes with medals, but not the men who gave those heroes a chance to survive. Sometimes, the most powerful trick isn't in the manuals. It's in the belief that things can be better." And that was Charlie's legacy. Not fame, not fortune, but the unseen victory of quiet innovation. Because while generals won wars on paper, and pilots won them in the skies, men like Charlie Birchfield won them in midnight hangars, under flickering lights, armed not with guns, but with ideas.